Okay, good morning, guys. It is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021, and we're looking at the S&P 500 futures here. We're going to do our pre-market analysis, starting with, again, my highest time frame that I look at, which is the quarterly here. And still the same picture, and so I'm a little surprised at how far we've pulled back because there really have been no signs on these high time frames. But as you can see, monthly hasn't changed. The quarterly hasn't changed. The monthly has not changed. The weekly has not changed. And our daily also pretty much has not changed, at least as far as any new signs of exhaustion in the market. So everything looks strong. There are no signs of exhaustion. And what I'm noticing here on the daily right now is as we push lower here, we're getting pretty extended on RVI, at least compared to the previous lows. So if we go back to the April 14th low, or maybe the April 13th low here, you can see that's where we got our last defined low on RVI. And we were down here at 41.01 quarter. All right, so I'm just going to kind of mark that on my daily at 01 quarter. I might have to type it in here. And so if price stays above 01 quarter here, this divergence will hold. And so that's the problem with the super high time frames, is because we have this divergence right now, it definitely is a bullish continuation pattern. However, price can come all the way down to 01 quarter and we would still have that indication. So this is tough to kind of play from the high time frames. But it's something we want to keep in mind, that we do have bullish continuation showing right now. But we do have to keep in mind we could drop another 20, 30 points. It would still be the case. So that's not going to help us with trade entries or anything. But we want to keep in mind that there is, if the market does now turn from here and this daily candle closes at the end of today, we will then have a pretty nice defined bullish divergence indicating we'll continue to push higher here. Remember, we had up above, we had 4180, 4200, and 4250. So we've got the 80, but we have not gotten 42 or 4250 yet. So maybe that's in the cards here in the next few days, or maybe even today we could push. But so far, all the high time frames look very bullish. And despite this pullback that we can see clearly on the daily, we do not have a bearish divergence or an exhaustion pattern. So I'm skeptical of this being it. I don't think 41.8350 is going to be the all-time high for the next few days. I think it's potentially going to break. And that's just going off my signals. When we jump down to the 4-hour, we talked about all of this kind of build up all the way up to 41.8350. And we talked about how at that all-time high, on some of these more intermediate time frames, as we jump down to 4-hour, 1 hour, 30-minute, 10-minute, we got some decent bearishness from there. And now, like I wrote in the morning report, we're just about 50 points down from the all-time high, which if you look back from all the way, pretty much even all of March, was really, really strong. Got a decent sell-off where, by the way, this was indicated in the cards as well that this was going to be a local top. But when we got down to March 25th, if anyone was in the room at that time, we called an extremely strong bull bias into the open that morning. And sure enough, that was the low. And now for almost a month, we've just been pushing from there. So really what I'm trying to say here is that we've had this protracted uptrend. And now we've got a decent pullback. So we've got 30-point pullbacks on this entire push up. That was the most we've pulled back, and now today we pulled back over 50 points. So we'll have to see if kind of that is it or not. But remember, from a daily perspective, we are showing potential indications of bullish divergence off of the overnight low. All right. Now, when we come down to the 4-hour, what I'm seeing here is if this 4-hour candle closes 30 minutes after the open and RVI ends up coming flat like this, we will also have bullish. So this would be kind of an exotic divergence where price pushed down to the overnight low at 41.31, but RVI stayed at the same level. Now, if it closes and RVI stays down here, then we really don't have any sign of bullishness on the 4 hour. All right. There's also really not so much any signs of bearishness. We just had the bearishness off the all-time high. And then as we push down here, you could kind of maybe argue there was a bearish sign right here where we pushed up just by a tick. And then this pushed down just by a few ticks. And so we got an indication on the 4 hour of this pullback. But again, we're now down from 41.67 to 41.31. So almost 30 points. And in such a great bull trend here, that's all you could really expect. So right now, what I would prefer to see is when this 4 hour candles at 7 a.m. Pacific, that this is actually flat on RVI. So it would give us the bullish indication, kind of what our daily is showing us right now. And then when we jump down to our 1 hour, we're going to see that we have a very clear bullish divergence. So that's why I'd really like to see that 4 hour confirm when the candle closes. But we have a candle that closed here at 4 a.m. Pacific, and we got bullishness on the 1 hour. So now we kind of have a daily and a 1 hour and then a 4 hour that maybe could close bullish. So we'll be watching that as that happens. But right now, we've got bullish divergence on the 60-minute. All right, so we'll watch that. We'll keep that in mind. And also, just to kind of point out, that sell-off we had overnight, you could see from the 4 hour and from the 1 hour a bearish signal. So that sell-off was not too unexpected if you were watching those signals, okay? So let's jump down now to the 30-minute. And let's see what our intermediate time frames are telling us here. On our 30-minute, we also have that same indication. Now, we didn't have it off the previous swing low. So it wasn't something like this where we got a lower low, but then RVI made a higher low. In fact, we did get kind of a similar pattern where we made a lower low and the RVI made a lower low. However, when you zoom in and you look at, let's get rid of that, you look at the candle where we made the low on RVI. We're down here right about 25 on RVI. We pushed down from 41.36 to 41.31, so 5 points lower, and the RVI actually closed and pushed higher, okay? So now we have 60-minute, potentially 4 hour, daily, and even the 30-minute very clearly giving us bullish divergence off of 41.31, all right? So now when we come down to our 10-minute, we have the same exact picture as the 30-minute. All right, we pushed from 41.36 down to 41.31, but on RVI, we made this huge glaring classic divergence, okay? So almost every time frame is giving us bullishness off this low. It's just that the 4 hour is not quite showing it, but the candle still has over an hour about 45 minutes for it to actually close. So what I'm hoping here again is the 4 hour starts to agree and it becomes a flat exotic divergence off of that low. But outside of the 4 hour, we basically have daily kind of confirming, understanding that we do have about 30 points more that it could pull back, and we still are holding this very glaring divergence. All right, so for now, we're going to say we do have the potential for bullishness, a bullish divergence on the daily. The 4 hour is the one that's not really showing it, but then the 60-minute, the 30-minute, and the 10-minute are all showing bullishness off that low. So it's giving me a little bit more confidence here that we could potentially come up to at least break through that 50% of the previous day at 41.58. Now I do want to show the 3-minute as well. So we're seeing that every single time frame has bullishness off the low, except for that 4 hour. But remember, the 4 hour could eventually show that if it closes flat in about 45 minutes. But you can see here from the 30-minute perspective how we've pushed down from that 36-ish to 31, and we've got this push up, right? So every time frame is giving us that indication. So we'll see if we can get a follow through this morning. I personally did try a short earlier for a few of you that were in the room. It was off of 41.75, but when I got to the screen, it was down at 40.25. So I entered a little later than I really would have liked to. And it did get me about a few points in the money and then came all the way back. Now, it was counter trend to what we're starting to see, so it makes sense that that didn't end up working out. But that's kind of where we are right now, and we do have a lot of time until the open. We have over 10 minutes, and so we'll watch here and we'll start to kind of look at some of the important levels here coming into the open. So right now what I'm noticing is we have a very clear leg from the overnight high. So from the overnight high to the overnight low, we came down and we're right at the 38 retracement, but more so, something that's more interesting to me than just the retracement is the fact that right here at 41.45.50, we have this previous swing low. So we have that one there, pushed, pulled back, and then bounced at 45.50. Okay, so now we're basically right there on the chart. And, this could be a little local resistance area. I'm not saying to short it or anything, but just pointing out kind of some confluence that we have at the current level. And then as we push up, I am kind of noticing that the 61.8 retracement, if you kind of zoom in here, you can see on this bar how we came down. We bounced directly off that 53.50, pushed up, and then bounced again, and then finally broke through. And remember, this is a 10-minute, so on a shorter time frame, you'll see the actual bounce, the push, the bounce, the push, and then the breakthrough, right? And then when we broke through on this candle, we came right back up to that 61.8 level and then continued down. So there could be a possibility of an interaction right here in the market as well. And there's really not a lot else lining up there, so I'm going to leave that kind of as I use my other color there for that one. And so outside of that, we do want to keep in mind on this push, if we continue to push, that we do have the CP and the 50% of the previous day right here around 57.58. Okay, and then we have the swing low in the market from the overnight right at midnight, right where the next CP is. So we're going to want to watch those, and I'm kind of looking to see if these levels that I have marked are even relevant anymore, 61.50 and 64. I think we're going to go ahead and leave them for now. Although the 61.50, it will probably be the case that I delete this one off the chart and then the market reacts right at it and sells off or something. But for right now, I'm not seeing as much off of 61.50. So if anything, we have the CP at 60.50 here, and then 64 and 66 here is where the KP is. These are also two interesting areas. You can see that we had a lot of support in the market here back just before the open and right at the open here yesterday. Then it was resistance after the open. And then over here you can see they had quite a lot of trouble breaking through. And then it was a little messy. But overall that 64 still looks pretty important to me. And so I'll leave that one up. And then 74.75 just happens to be the high from yesterday. So I always leave that on, and that's what you'll see, the green, the red, and the 50% magenta from previous daily price action. So outside of just a few of these levels that we can see marked on the chart, there's really not much holding us down. And so I think that's all we really need to look at on the upside here. Is again the 38 retrace, the previous support, and then we had a previous support and resistance area kind of right in here, and then we have the 50% of the previous day, which happens to line up with the CPs. So that's all we have up top. Now on the way down, if we end up getting some resistance on one of these levels and we do start to break that 41.31 area, and maybe break that CP at 30, right? So if we can break 30, We do have 27, which is still there. It's untested. It's been resistance for quite a while. If you look in the past, it broke through, ended up becoming resistance again, and then the market broke through, extended away, and has never come back to test it. So we're going to leave that 27 up there. And then this CP happened to be some really good resistance and support here in the market. So we have these two levels below us to watch. And I do want to kind of see, it's hard to look for a specific leg. So the only leg that really stands out to me is the one that we made from the April 14th low up to the all-time high. But we've already broken the 61.8 retracement. You can argue that the 75% retracement is where we bounced from. And so this specific retracement leg is basically over because we've tested all the important levels. And so there's really not much else to be looked at right there. Outside of that, you can see that there's really no clear leg. Now, I might have to look at a higher time frame here. So if we jump back to like a 30-minute, it's still kind of, you have this major leg right here. And then outside of that, you can see there was a leg here, right? But overall, I mean, you could just say, oh, well, I'll just draw it from the low. But if you do that, you now have, I mean, every single low you can go back to and draw a fib from. And it's kind of hard to really determine which one is going to be the most important. So I look for things that stick out to me. So we had this major sell-off here, and then we just launched, right, with no, at least this was a 30-point sell-off at least. Outside of that, we found the local low and we pushed, and there's really been no significant pullback until we got to the all-time high at 83.50. So this specific leg was interesting, but we've basically used all the important levels. So from a retracement perspective, the only thing that we could really look at that's going to give us some important levels is to jump back to our high time frames here and look at the entire leg. So we might even have to look at it from a 4-hour perspective and see that, I mean, we've basically got this low in the market from March 25th up to where we are now at 83.50. And so the 38 retracement is all the way down at 40.50-ish. Remember, I probably didn't draw this exactly at the high, exactly at the low. So it's somewhere right around 40.50, 250 to 53.50 here. That's the first important area that the bulls need to defend. So as we pull back, if we get this protracted sell-off, and this would be like almost a 200-point sell-off, the first area that the bulls really need to jump in and hold is going to be that 40.50 area. All right, now what makes more sense to me is a pullback right into that 61.8 area, which happens to be all of the previous resistance in the market right about here at 39.79. So I think I have 39.83 on my morning report. And let's see. 39.83. Okay, so that's that previous high right there. But this right here, 83.79, 39.80, this is a significant area in the market where we found pretty strong resistance back March 17th on the push. Then we got the sell-off, and we came right up. We broke it just by 2 or 3 points and got another pullback. So this is a pretty significant area in the market. It might be a range from the previous highs there. So maybe 39.71 to 39.81. That's going to be important if we do end up getting this sell-off right now. But remember, our high time frames do not have any strong indication of a sell-off just yet. So that's kind of how I'm reading the market and looking at Fibonacci. And it looks like I have somebody mentioning me in the Discord. So let me just see what they're saying here. And Grace is saying the volume is breaking up. So yeah, 100% we're starting to get the bulls jump in here. And remember, for anyone that just came into the chat, we do have bullish divergence now on pretty much every single time frame off of the low that we made in the overnight. So we had 41.31, and every time frame from even the daily all the way down is giving it some bullishness, except for the 4-hour that still has another 30 minutes before it closes. So if it closes and we get that flat close, so we close right around 55-ish on RVI, we will have also a confirmation on the 4-hour. That's the only time frame that's giving us a little trouble with our overall picture this morning. And so that's kind of where we're at. We're going to have to kind of monitor this. I do see a nice bearish divergence here on the 512 and the 1 minute as we try to push. So might get a little pullback, maybe right back to that 41.75. So if we do get a decent bullish divergence somewhere around the KP and the previous daily low here, I might go ahead and pull the trigger just to see if we get a follow through, and again manage it with some aggressive stop and see what we get here. So we do have now this leg up, right? So we have 41.31 up to the current high, and then we have this specific leg here. And so we do get a lot of confluence on a slightly deeper pullback right around 41.40. But really, we're so zoomed in here, we're talking about worrying about 41.40 quarter or 41.42 quarter. You know, so just a 2-point, maybe even less than a 2-point range, because 41.75 to me makes more sense here because of all the previous resistance. So really right in this little 2-point range, I'm getting some interesting confluence with retracements and previous price action. So we're just about a minute and a half until the open, and there's no trade unless you actually saw that and you took that short at 45 to see if you can get it all the way down back to 41.75. So we are bullish into the open, and we are looking for a decent level and signal to take that bullish, expected bullish push. It could be that they end up not even pulling back to these important levels, just because I'm noticing that this 1 minute and 512 are showing a little bit of bullish divergence. The 1 minute still has 45 seconds left, so we could get right into the KP or right into 41.75, and I will be looking for a long there. And like I said, I mean, this could be it because of that 512 and 1 minute indication. But again, we're looking for a good signal at a good level. And I mean, we have the KP, don't get me wrong, but at least coming into the KP or right into the 41.75 would give me a little more confidence. And we're at the open now.